Hi everyone, it's Margaret. I'm back this week with another Halloween project. Um, this week I'm using the Tombstone Treat Boxes and just really had fun embellishing these little boxes. What's great about them is these boxes will stand up on their own, so they would make great table favors if you're having um, a special luncheon or a little bit of a Halloween celebration. They'd be great to stand up on the table. Or if you're having a small Halloween party, you could just stand them up as a favor for folks to take. And, you know, they are a good size little box, so they will hold some good little treats. Just so you know, you can find all of the details here at creativestampingwithmargaret.com. I'll have a list of all of the materials that I've used for this project, so you don't have to worry about writing all of the items down, as I'll have all of that on my site. So let me set the box aside. And the Tombstone Treat Boxes come, there are 8 in a pack, and when you open them up, you will find that there's the top side and the bottom side, and the way that I found them in the package is one faces the other, so it was sort of nice, so you'd know that one's a top and one's a bottom. But also, if you lay them together, you'll notice that one is slightly larger than the other, so that's the top. I'll show you how quickly these are to put together. We'll go ahead and put the box together before I go over the other materials. But it has the adhesive strip on each end, so you just fold those up. Press that. Then I like to take my bone folder and just press on that adhesive to make sure that it stays in place. And you see, if you have a lot of these to make, they'd make great treats for kids, for classrooms, because they come together so quickly. And of course, there are a lot of different ways you could embellish this, but I really like the Pretty Pumpkin set and decided I would combine it with another set. So here we have our top and our bottom. I can look at this and tell this one is slightly smaller, so that would be the bottom. Then our top just fits right over that. And it's a nice, good seal. And so now we have our box that we'll be embellishing. So the materials that I am using, the Pretty Pumpkins bundle is what I'm using. You have the Pretty Pumpkins stamp set, as well as the detail pumpkin dies that will cut out some of the pumpkins. Then this is in the mini catalog, the July to December mini catalog, whereas I'm also using the banner year, and this is from the annual catalog. And out of the banner year, I'm using the little bat and the happy haunting stamp. Then I've also used the Tasteful Labels die. I use that to cut a piece of the, let's see, what's the name of this? The Bloom Where You're Planted Designer Series paper. I saw this piece in there, and it just goes great with this tombstone. But if you don't have this paper, you could just take a piece of basic white and then sponge on it to give that stone look appearance. And then I have a piece of basic white cardstock that I'll be using to stamp the bat, the extra little bat, and the pumpkins with. And I'm also using blends to color the pumpkins, and I've got quite a few here that I'm using, and I'll go through each of those colors as we go to as we start coloring this. So let's get started with the project. So to stamp the pumpkins, I'm using the Early Espresso. So I've stamped those 3 pumpkins in Early Espresso. Then for the leaf that trails, the trailing leaf, I'm stamping it using Mossy Meadow. Oops, I had dirty stamp, but that's okay because that's going to be cut using our die, so we won't see that. But I did not clean my stamp earlier, and then I rocked it a little, but no harm. So now that I have those stamped, I'm going to start coloring. And for the pumpkins, I used a variety of colors. I've used the Pale Papaya, light and dark. I'm also using Pumpkin Pie, light and dark, and I'm using the light Daffodil Delight. So let's get started on the pumpkins, and I'll show you how I've used that. Obviously, you can color these however you like, but I thought the Pale Papaya went really well with the pumpkin pie. So we just, this first little pumpkin, I'm coloring it completely with the light Pale Papaya. Now I'm taking the dark Pale Papaya, and I'm going to color just a little bit more over that. Now I'm going to take the dark pumpkin pie. Sometimes these tops are a little tricky to get off. And where it would be dark up around the stem of the pumpkin, and then down, since it's sort of a gourd, a pumpkin is similar to a gourd, and you have those indentation lines. I've darkened those. Now I'm going to go back with my dark papaya and just pull that ink to smooth that. Excuse me, I grabbed light pumpkin, not the papaya. So this is the light pumpkin, to pull that. And of course, you see I went out of the line a little. That's where the color lifter is fabulous. It's like an eraser. Just, you go in, and if you erase that right out. Now let's move on to the large pumpkin. For that large pumpkin, I'm going to start with the dark pumpkin pie first. And the areas where they would be darkest, I'm filling in under that leaf because we would have shadows, so the pumpkin would look a little darker. And then we'll just go down these dark lines. Now I'm back to my light pumpkin pie blends. I find this coloring with blends is very therapeutic. Takes you back to days of being a kid when I used to color in a coloring book. Then on this large pumpkin, I'm going to take a little bit of our light Daffodil Delight and just hit it in the middle. Just brings a little bit of yellow. I looked at pumpkins at the store and noticed that sometimes they have little areas of yellow. Pull that in. I'm going to add a little bit of the dark pale papaya around that as well. We'll just blends that in there very nicely. Then on to our last pumpkin. There again, we're going to take the dark and go right around the areas where it would be darkest. And on this, I'm going to use the dark pale papaya. Get the right end here, the brush end. And as you see, it's just a light touch. I'm not pressing very hard on this. Just lightly putting the tip of the blends down on the paper. Then we're going to go back with our light pumpkin pie and blend that color in at the top a little bit more. This is the light pumpkin pie. See how nicely that blends that in. Just a real light touch. So there we have our pumpkins. Let me move these colors out of the way. And as I said, I will put the colors that I've used on my blog. So for our stems, I'm using the light and dark soft suede, and I'm starting off with the light and just coloring all of the stems in their entirety with the light. back up the dark here. Let me get the correct end. And then there, I'm just pulling right down along the bottom where it would be darkest. Pull that up. And then we'll press those. Just go back and not really press, but blend those. And one thing, I'm going to go back on these pumpkins with the dark pumpkin pie and just darken that a touch more right around that stem. So now we're through with the soft suede. I'm going to pull this dark pumpkin back in and go ahead while I have it handy and color at the bottom of this little leaf. I'm calling it a bloom, would be where the pumpkin is starting to form. So I'm coloring it with the dark pumpkin pie. So to color our leaves, I'm using Old Olive light and dark, and then I'm also using light mossy metal. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm taking my light Old Olive and I'm coloring all of the leaves in their entirety. Well, I'm getting tongue twisted, but you know what I mean. I'm coloring all of the leaves. I'm going to switch to the other end here. There. Goes a little faster with the brush in a large area to color. Now we will switch to the dark Old Olive, and I'm applying it along some of the veins of the leaves and more toward the center. And then these little tendrils that are coming out of the pumpkin, I'm taking the fine tip and I'm just following along to color those tendrils. Before I do the one at the top, I want to finish this while the ink is still wet. I'm going to take the light Old Olive again, and we're going to take our brush tip, and we're going to blend, just blend that. See how nicely that comes together? The colors just blend together. We'll go back to the dark Old Olive and do our with the bud, with the pumpkin bud on it. Now I'm back with the light old olive. And then the last step that I did, I've taken the light mossy meadow, and then right at the center of these leaves, I'm just adding a little bit darker green, as you would imagine how the darker portion of a leaf would be. Obviously, that's optional. You can color these any manner that you like, but I just wanted to show you the colors that I used. And then go back with our color lifter to do a little bit of erasing. And then the next step is to take the dies, the coordinating dies, line those up, and we'll cut those out. But to save time, I had already completed that step. So let me set this aside. Now I'm going to pull in our bat and our Happy Haunting from the Banner Year stamp set. I'll also bring in the label piece that is cut. And then another thing that you'll want to do on this piece is with your Memento Black, which let me step over and grab mine. With either your Memento or StazOn, whichever is your favorite black, you'll want to stamp a bat, and you'll fussy cut that bat out, because as you see, I've added a bat here. But I'm going to go ahead and stamp this bat on the corner of our label. And then for the Happy Haunting, I'm using basic gray. Now we will start assembling with our pieces. And as you see on this, the sample that I showed, I had have a bow tied at the top, and that's using the glittered organdy ribbon. I think that on this one, I'm going to change it up a little, and instead of a bow, I'm going to snip a piece. And I'm going to see what it looks like if I just sort of do a zigzag across the box. Let me just see what this would look like. Before I affix it, I'm going to hold that and see. Oh, what do you think? I'm going to try this. Will be a little bit different. I'm going to take some of my Stampin' Seal Plus to adhere this, to put that down, and then to hold that piece in the center. I'll take a glue dot and put that down because the label will help hold that down some. So we've got that placed. Let me put these here before I attach this label to make sure that I've allowed room, and I have. So we'll affix the label, and for the label I'm using Stampin' Dimensionals. And as always, I really cover the back. As you know from other videos, I use a lot of the dimensionals just so that they stay in place. Oh, that's going to look so cute. And now we'll add the pumpkins. And for this, excuse me just a moment. Oh, my throat. So for this pumpkin, we're going to keep it flat. It would look good up on dimensionals, but I'm also adding this trailing vine in front with the leaf, and I'm going to put that on dimensionals. Let me get a sip of water here real quick. I used to only have allergies in the spring, but the last few years I get allergies just about year-round. So it's a constant battle. Oh, I was going to put that flat. Well, obviously I grabbed the dimensionals and put them on there, but I'm going to see if I can pull some of those off. I think it looks better flat. I'm so used to using dimensionals on just about everything. But I'm going to go ahead and put one of these dimensionals on the back of that. The good thing is they weren't on there very long, so they peel right back off, and I can put them back on here and use them on my next project. So I'm using the Stampin' Seal Plus. And I'm going to place this down at the bottom, toward the bottom of our Tombstone box. And then I'm going to take one of the little mini dimensionals that I've cut in half, and I'm going to place it at the end of that tendril just to hold that, help hold that in place. And we'll remove the backing. Look, I have ink all over my hands right now. Am I the only one that's a messy crafter? I always seem to be wearing ink on my hands when I'm in my craft space, but that's okay. Most of it washes right out. Washes out with a good soap. Then we're going to take our bat, and of course, to save time, I've already cut one. But I found just adding a touch of Winkostella just added that extra little glitz to the bats. And as you notice, I'm just sort of dabbing the Winkostella as I color, particularly around the face, because the memento may smear you with the Winkostella, so I'm just real careful dabbing it so as to not smear it. We'll add this other bat using mini dimensionals. And then we'll add a little bit of Wink of Stella to it as well. Had my nails cut down yesterday so they could get healthy and grow back, and now I have no nails to help peel these backing off. So there we have that. We'll touch him with a little bit of the Wink of Stella as well. I don't know if the camera is picking this up, but just adding that little bit of sparkle from the Wink of Stella on these bats really makes them just sort of pop. I'll hold that up. Hopefully you can see that shimmer on both of those. We'll finish the label by adding a couple of the small rhinestone basic jewels. Move this one just a touch more. There. So there we have two of the Tombstone Treat Boxes, which we have embellished with using the detailed pumpkins and the Banner Year stamp set. In the comments, let me know which you prefer, with the bow or just the ribbon that goes back and forth. Thanks for joining me today. Remember, I'll have all the details at Creative Stamping with Margaret. Check back next week for another fun video.